On. Hello, welcome. Yes. Okay, now we'll do it. Welcome to learningukulele.com with Kurt, myself, Kurt Scholler, and Kelly. This is Triads.
Wait.
Last workshop we did was traditional triads. We covered majors and minors. We'll finish up with those in our review. So what is a triad? It is a three-note chord, tri meaning three. So what is a triad? Three-note chord. Now, those three notes are arranged in intervals. How do we get those three notes? In a traditional triad, most common chords are built in thirds. Now, how can we determine the interval? An interval has a name and a distance. Now, the distance we can easily get by counting the lines and spaces of a traditional music staff, 5-line staff, the 5 lines and the 4 spaces. From line to line is an interval of a third, and a space to space is an interval of a third. So here's an example on the screen here, the notes C and G, power 5 chord. That interval C and then G. I'll actually play it, C, G, that is an interval of a fifth. Now, so the name and the distance. Now we can take a C major scale as an example, which is a very easy major scale, major key to learn, as it's just the 7 natural letters of the musical alphabet from C to C. And if we number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it goes on up to 13 if we're dealing with chords beyond triads, the number is the distance. So the distance from C to D is a second, C to E is a third, C to E is a fourth, G fifth, sixth, so on. Now the name is major or perfect for the major scale. Now every interval starts out as major. And the reason why an interval would be perfect versus major is if that interval, the lower note and the higher note, take the example of C to F, if there is a C in an F major scale, it's perfect. G, so the F and the G are perfect intervals, hence not major. Then we can actually have minor intervals. You can lower any major interval and have a minor. Then there's such names as diminished and augmented. So as far as triads go, we have majors, minors, diminished, and augmented. That was the traditional triads that we covered last workshop. And the first triad we did, we'll start with the string 1. What the heck, let's go. String 1, major triad. The root is on string 1. Take note of those numbers above it, these 3, 5, and R for root, or the 1. So a major triad is a root, third, and a fifth. We did 3 of them. Then we did the one on the string 2, familiar G shape. And then the root on string 3. Right? There, here's my little pad. Right? So that's the major triads. And here are all 3 of the major triads in order from string 1, 2, and 3. A couple of them are familiar, I'm sure. I'll move over a little bit, or just move the monitor. There you go. There you go. Nice. So we'll actually practice those. And we're just doing 3 strings. In fact, if you do these on a high G, it's the identical notes, just on a different set of 3 strings. On a low G, there are different intervals. It becomes easier to transfer them later on. So this is the major triads. Now we didn't cover augmented or diminished in the last workshop, but an augmented triad is the root, third, and sharp to 5. So we would take the fifth of each one of those major triads and raise it 1 fret. And we would get this. Now one thing is readily apparent that we can see right away is they're all 3 the same shape. The reason for that is this. We'll use C as the example. C to E is a major third. E to G sharp as a major third. So these are equal distant intervals, symmetrical chords. So actually, you memorize one augmented shape, and any one of those notes could be the root. If we took this first example here, this is A sharp or B flat. This is F sharp or G flat. And this is D. So any one of those three names are possible. Now if you're doing a high G or low G, you can put your pinky on string 4, fret 3, and that's a movable augmented triad with the string 1 doubled. So that chord is easy to memorize. You just memorize that shape and learn the notes of the neck. You know, I always harp on the notes of the neck. All right, so the notes of the neck. Yes. I used to give this book away. I think now it's $1. Learning the ukulele fingerboard. There's fingerboard charts online and stuff, but this book takes you through a nice step-by-step approach to learn them based on key frets. I'd start with fret 5 and
Go ahead.
7. That'll help us a lot. C, F, A, D, D, G, B, E. Digibee, digibee, digibee. So using triads. This is the review. I'm blasting through it. Accompaniment. Somebody could be strumming C, F, C to G. You do triads, F, C, G. In fact, that's the approach I would take. I would take common chord progressions that you already know are songs, and here's C here. Here's F, C, G. All right, same thing here. C, F, C, G. Or just simply move them if you want. All right. So using triads, melodies, solos, improvisations. There's the easy.
What level of like playing would you think this is? Like intermediate or advanced?
No, this is the intermediate.
Advanced beginner?
Yeah, advanced beginner. I'd dive right in. Kelly asked, what level is this? It's actually a beginner level. You can start out, but using them, you could advance into like more advanced levels and stuff like that. But I would, you're already doing triads if you're playing the open position chords. Like here's C, C, right? G, we know that triad, right? We already know G. They're based off the open position chords. This is E. Oh no, it's not. It's A, B flat, F, F sharp, D, D sharp, E flat. Now E flat's more common. So single notes, we can use them for single notes. Fingering. Yes, now there's two different fingerings. One is a chord fingering, like this would be a chord fingering for the G, and this would be a single note fingering to play it as an arpeggio. Because then when you play it as an arpeggio, you can add a note. We'll use G as the example. Now later on you'll learn, you just learn how to spell these chords. G is G, B, D. G, B, D. Oh, here's D, C, F, A, D, right? Charge! So this is a chord fingering. Chord, scale fingering, single notes. You want them to sustain, but as single notes.
Betsy, I'm in the exotic locale of Pottstown, Penns Woods. Hey,
Yep.
Betsy.
Penns Woods.
We'll wave to you from down the hill.
Yeah, we'll yell. Now, the minors. Let's review the minors. Okay, minors. We had the minors. Just lowered a third of the majors, but I would memorize the majors and the minors on their own. They are the primary chords that you do a lot of. This is a minor with the root on string 2. Minor with the root on string 3. I didn't even use my... That's funny. Let's see if this works. So minor 2, minor 1. All right, nice. Now here's all 3 minors. You can readily see them, memorize the shapes. Ultimately, you memorize the names of the notes in them. It's called chord spelling.
Glenn is reminding us that you can learn all of this information on the world's most comprehensive
ukulele site. Yep.
Ukulele website, learningukulele.com.
Yes, I'm getting ready. I'm making a push I'm up to 690 lessons.
Wow.
Now, that's a lot of lessons, so it's a pretty daunting task finding what you're looking for, but you can do search. I have search implemented in there. But I've also curated the lessons into a series that gives you somewhat a logical sequence of how to approach and go through these. And Contemporary Triads is one of the series. So minors, memorize the majors and the minors. Now, from the minors, we can get the diminished triad. This is the fourth of the traditional triads. Now, a diminished triad is made up of minor thirds. So C to E flat, using C diminished as an example, is C, E flat, and a G flat. Now the diminished and the augmented chord, they're like I call them movie chords. They're very suspenseful. Now this is, I make this statement to people often. I tell them that you've probably pretty much never played a diminished chord in your life. And they'll say, what? Play them all the time. They're in songs, diminished. Yes, but if you look at the shape, you're playing this. You're playing a diminished seventh chord, and often it's not written as a diminished seventh chord. It's written as diminished, but a common principle, guideline that jazz performers have used for decades and decades is to never play a straight diminished chord. It's always converted to a diminished seventh. So these are diminished triads. The diminished seventh chord has additional interval.
Why?
It's so much better. They sound nicer, that's all. The diminished triad would be hard to figure also. I got to get this here. And I guess this sort of history just sounds better a little bit. It's a 4-part chord. So I actually do, that's a bizarre statement, but you don't have to memorize the diminished chords. If you know this minor, you know where the fifth is, you can lower it. And you can do them on the fly. I'm going up for G minor, making it diminished. So G, B flat, D flat, root, flat, third, fifth. Now you can use them for solos and stuff, but you won't really use these for chords and stuff. These are more of a solo thing. Or if you're playing triads, like here's an example. C, C diminished, right? You get these nice moving lines. All right, very nice. That sounded pretty cool, right? So that was like C, C diminished. Then I went down to like a D minor with a C in it to a G7. So that would work like nice, very cool. I like that. So major, minor, diminished. Memorize the majors and the minors, and the diminished and augmented has become easy. Now, the reason for this workshop, contemporary triads. These are the sus and add. Sus means suspension. You're actually suspending a note in an upcoming chord with a note that was in the previous chord. So an example would be like you're playing like a C chord and you're going to a G, but you don't want to get to B yet, so you play with a G sus. Sus, the abbreviation means suspended, suspension. It usually refers to the third of the chords. So let's dive into them. I'll show all three here. So we start with the major triad. Notice again the root, third, and fifth up above. Now, we're going to take the third of the chord and we're going to raise that 1 fret higher on the same string. Here's my majors. Notice the third for root on string 1 is on string 3. this is easy to memorize. Root, third, fifth. So now notice this will go fast. Oh wait, I didn't even show
You
everybody
didn't move
there.
it over. I was going to say.
I know. Ready? Okay, here's the majors. Ready? Major triad. We're going to raise the third 1 fret to the 4th. All right. Now, so there's the arrow, showed where the third was. It's grade, and we moved it 1 fret higher. There is a sus4. They just sit there and float. Now, historically, it would be like a sus4, and they'd resolve to that third. But in contemporary music, our ear has come to accept the fact that it doesn't have to. It's just going to float there.
Betsy says she has so much catching up to do with your videos.
So there's the sus4s. Now again, I would just memorize these off of the majors. What's that?
I don't know, that last thing came out real loud on the...
Oh, it did? Yeah, I have gain on, so that'll help. Compression and gain and all kinds of crazy audio terms I've been looking up. So sus4, how do we use them? Well, sometimes they'll actually be listed in a song to play a sus4. A lot of times they're in there to support the melody. So this actually brings home the point where if you can learn to read the notes, just for reference, and compare those notes to the chords, sometimes you'll see the melody is supported in the chord. Because you get a clash. If we have a melody of a C note, somebody's saying C, that's high. C, you play a G, C, it's going to clash. You're going to get this. So if it's a G chord with a C melody, unless you want that dissonance and the clash, you put in the suspension. Some contemporary songs had that. I played that and I was channeling the Deep Purple's My Woman in Tokyo. Billy Joel had the Just the Way You Are. A lot of songs have that in there. Tom Petty's Free Fallin' is a classic one. It's just those 3 chords. In G would be this, be G, G sus4. Now sus can also refer to suspend the 4th by the 2nd. The 2nd of G, the easy way to get the 2nd of any chord is to the next letter a whole step above the root is the 2nd. So this is A. Just take that off. So I have this. Somebody mowing?
Travis, my husband, is over here mowing your yard.
You got to mow. We're going to have to shut the window. Yeah. Can you hear it? Might not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I have a noise gate on, so maybe we don't hear the mowing outside.
Oh, cool. We can keep the window open then on this.
So I didn't show the sus2s. Maybe I did. Hold on. No, I didn't. So the sus2s, you work them out yourself. A little homework. All right. Start from the major. Now, the one little point. Let's take the C here like this. And we sus it. We raise string 3, 1 fret, sus4. Now take C minor. Raise the flat third 2 frets. And you get the same chord. So the third is pretty important for the color of it. So it all depends on the harmonic movement, the chord progression. So sus4s of minors are possible, but pretty rare. So sus, suspension. Sus is the default. That would mean the 4th. If they want a sus2, it would say sus2. All right, now, so that's it for suspended chords, suspensions. Add chords. add. You can add any note to a chord. Typically in contemporary music triads, an add 2 or add 9 is indicated. Now, if we went back to the major scale, you see as the example, we'd find out that D is the second 2, and D is also the 9th. So just its position in relationship to the root and the octave determines which one is the second and which one's the 9th. The second means you're getting the D that just is a major second above the C. And if we try to do it, unless you have a high G, it would be possible that you could take a G chord and you could bar fret 2, and technically that would be a G add 9 on a high D, a high G chord. That'd be an add 9 chord. All right. On the low G, it's not. Here's my G, the root. To technically make that an A, I'd have to be play the open, but then I'll lose my B. So here's how we can consider add 2s and add 9s on the ukulele pretty much the same chord, because we can't really get the above the octave sometimes. So the easiest way to get the add 2 is to displace the root 2 frets. So here's my C in this case here. Here's my root. I'm going to get the D in. Right, here's my G. Take the G. Right, here's the E flat. So a lot of them need refingering.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, it's very contemporary. I was sort of channeling it. It sounded like some Pat Metheny song or jazz guitars from long ago.
Lower that when you strum it comes out
It doesn't peg it into the red though, so it's good. Still staying low. So add 9 again. If you use them a lot in a certain chord progression or a song that you do, it'll become part of your vocabulary and you'll have it memorized. If you don't, I would just do them on the fly. I did actually convey this story once. I was asking the fellow I studied guitar with, and a lot more chords available because of different string sets on the guitar. We were doing some kind of chord. I think it was like 9 sharp 11 or something like that. And on ukulele, we base things off of a 7th chord, but there's only one set of 4 strings, so that means 4 7th chords. On the guitar, theoretically, there's 15 sets of 4 strings, but not all of them are functional. So you do a minimum of 20 to 28 of a 7th chord as your foundation. So I'm struggling through 9 sharp 11, but I asked them, boy, how do you memorize all these chord shapes? And I tell people, if you had a cartoon hammer, I'd have got it. And he says, you can't memorize all these shapes. There's too many shapes to memorize. What you do is you have a solid, firm foundation of core chords, and a knowledge of the notes of the neck is key, and you can do them on the fly. If they're in your vocabulary, from doing them a lot, like Petty's Free Falling, he does it in F. It's not F. F is up here. But I won't be able to get the... there I had to cheat. I had to get the G on this string because I can't get it open. So it sounds close. But it's the major triad, sus 4, and then sus 2. Now the sus 4 goes up 1, the sus 2 goes down 2. All right, so that's sus and add chords. All right, they're pretty cool, interesting. Now I'm going to add this into the contemporary chords also. A 4-part triad.
Move it over.
Sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? 4-part triad. It's just 3 notes. How can it be 4 parts? Well, a 4-part chord is like a 7th chord. Here's F7 as an example. You know, A7, that's one of them. E7, C7, G7. They're all 4-part chords. They have 4 distinct different notes. They are the root. I'll use this major as an example. Like F major is F-A-C-E. That's 4 notes. F is the 1, A is the 3, C is the 5th, E is the major 7th. So that's the 4th part, the 4th note. So how can we get a 4-part chord? The most important notes of a 4-part chord are typically the 3rds and the 7ths. The root and 5th are actually not that important. We can convey the essence of the chord by just getting that 3rds and the 7ths, generically speaking. So if we take C7, we can lower the root 2 frets and we get C7. So C major, C7. Root here, C. So I'm going to go back to my major 7s. I'll try this, hold on. Look at that, isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
So this is my major triad. I'll do C as an example because I need to move the root 2 frets. So there's C7. I have E and the B flat. That's the essence of the chord. I would put the C bass note as an example. You hear the sound. Like here's a C7 chord. C, E, G, B flat. I'll get rid of the C. Still sounds the same. I'm going to get rid of the G. Right? If I got rid of the E, it still sounds pretty close. But if I got rid of the B flat and the E, this is C7, C minor 7, C major 7.
Don't look at me. I thought you were looking at me.
So take the major triad, lower the root 2 frets. Here's G. Take G on string 2, lower 2 frets. This one you already know. G, G7. Now, if you have string 4 and the notes in the chord, you can just add it to the chord. I'll move it up here is A. Now notice it has no roots, so you still want to keep track of the roots of these chords. Still want to keep track of where those roots are because they help you to transpose it. If I want to move up here and get F, I'm keeping track of that F, and as I'm getting up there, I'm going to just do it on the fly. Now we go to G7. I'm going to go up to F. So it looks like I knew it. I'm letting my secrets out.
Mm-hmm.
But you do them on the fly because there absolutely is too much to memorize. There's no way. Here's C. And how many times have you played a C to C7 to F, G7? So here's C, C7, F, G7. All right, very cool. Here's F. F7. Oh, geez. Song just came to my head. So, Dear Prudence. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that song. I'll do it in G. Here's a G. Then it does G7. Or G, you'll see it listed as G with an F bass note. G with an E bass note. G with a D sharp.
Jack Murray popped on for a little bit.
Oh yeah? So if I had to move this to a different key and a different chord shape, here we go, I'll grab it here as E. So this is, just goes down. This is the root, flat 7. It actually goes to the 6th, then to the sharp 5. So it allows you to know this halfway through songs and not have to memorize so much. So 7ths. I would call some of these are like free form chords. We have our open position chords, movable bar forms, then jazz chords, you know, those 7ths, minor 7ths, major 7ths, all that, and then free form chords where you know the notes. Triads fit in there in the middle somewhere, depending on what you're studying and when. So take that one chord to the 7th, then to the 4th F, and do it in different keys. So here's G, G7. If you're going to go to C, then to the D. So we don't hear the mower. Right?
There, I did hear.
Yeah, it's coming up by the window. Hey, we're getting our lawn mowed nicely, you know, so that's nice. So that's very good. So 4-part triads. Now, just so you know, a little demo I did a little bit is knowing where these intervals are. A chord starts out as a shape. Do D as an example. Then it becomes root, 5th, 3rd. And good players, and everybody can be a good player, is this ends up being the minimum amount of information I need. And if I'm doing D, I know D, F sharp, A now. So there, that's the least amount of information. It's not this shape, that shape. So, shut the window. Mowing.
That and my allergies will start
Yes.
flaring up too.
So let's take the D. Now, if we lower the root 1 fret, we get a major 7th. So this is D major 7. And I'm sure somebody out there is saying, wait a second, that looks like a minor. And it is. It's the relative minor of D. Now, you don't want to do the mental gymnastics ahead of time for that. Say, okay, what was that? C, 6th chord. That's the same as some sort of minor. But now, after you do it and you realize it's the same as F sharp minor, then you can pop them. Do G as an example, it's a lot easier. That's B minor. Or if you pop your B minors pretty easy. But they're not B minor anymore, they're G6. So back to D. D, D6, D7. So major 7, 6th. 7, flat 7, D7, D6. So the D's memorized. And again, they will become part of your vocabulary as you do them a lot. They're really cool. They're really good for solos. I think triads are really, really good for situations where you are playing with lots of other instruments and a lot of people are strumming. You know, did C, you know, C, C7, F. Right, so there I just sort of took my F here instead of doing this or this. I took the F, A, and I never C. I would take each chord. They become a nice cadence too, like that. Right, a lot easier on piano, I think, probably for piano players. They can even do crossed hand techniques. We have to take pretty much what you're trying to do on the ukulele when you do stuff like this is you're actually trying to take the 10 fingers, 88 keys, and move everything into 4 fingers and 4 strings.
Mm.
So it's challenging. Very flexible, but challenging. In fact, that song, I think I played it in the beginning, the prelude. A lot of times I'll stick in Summer's Dawn, a song I wrote for my CD. And it started out actually as triads exercise. It was a G or D major, G, little harmonic chord sequence, harmonized chord scale. That went fancy, right? But triads are pretty powerful. You can add notes. But I just consider these C chord. I'm adding the second, big deal. Now here's a demo. So if I do this C triad here, these 3 strings, and I put this in, that would be an add 2. Here's the root. If I do a low G, low C, that's an add 9. Because I did get this as the root, 3rd, 5th, octave 8, 9th. Right? So technically, but just consider them the same. If there are any questions, you can post them in the
Comments.
Yeah, comments. So take your simple chord progressions: C, A minor, F, G. Fancy them up. C, add 9.
I think I have too many questions.
A minor, add 9. So the add 9s will work on minors also. Basically, you can take any triad and raise the root 2 frets and make it a 9th. You can do it with the diminished. So here's like F diminished. Now that sounds really dissonant, right?
Mm.
Right? Augmented. I'll call this one here C augmented.
Oh, Lindy
Long
Thatcher's
sound.
watching from Bermuda. Is it nice and sunny and beautiful there today?
Did they survive to recover from the hurricane this last summer?
Oh yeah, that was.
Oh, Bermuda, that was Bahamas.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I didn't really was
I get the bees
yeah.
mixed up. We went to Bermuda. Like that place. I still have
Still have what?
I bought a steel drum there in Bermuda, but
Where is it at?
it got ruined.
Oh.
Cats used it as a litter piece.
Oh, that's right.
What?
That was a long time ago. I was
Yeah.
little. Those are old house. Wouldn't that like clean right out of that though? It's steel?
The smell.
It still just sticks with it. Darn. We'll have to go back to Bermuda and get another steel drum. Pouring rain.
Yeah,
but
turn
we're
these little
sheltered.
moves into
Oh.
exercise.
It's not supposed to rain in Bermuda, Lindy.
Let's do this. Let's play C, A minor, F, G7. Now here's our little point you can point out. C, A minor, only 1 note changed. G to the A. That's A minor. They share 2 notes, C, E, G, A, C, E. So if I come up to this C, I just gotta get the G to the A. Anywhere, even in all the strings, C, get the G to the A. C, G to the A. And so, yeah, notes to the neck. I don't mention that often enough.
No, not. I've heard that phrase.
There's a song I remember, I haven't played it in years, In the Mood. First part is the blues progression, sort of, in A flat, but it's nothing but these triads. Like, that's cool, right? so I can do it up here. Or A flat. I forget where it goes after that. I think I went diminished. Oh, I forgot that one. No, that's funny. That's an interesting point there. My ear did not forget it. My fingers forgot it because I went to the next chord and it was not right. So our ear actually remembers a lot. Our fingers don't remember anything.
Your fingers are like, I got this, I got this, and they go, and then your brain's like, no, it's not right at all.
I could hear that with the other way. I forget that part. See, my ear doesn't, but my fingers haven't played in a while. They totally forgot it. They thought they'd never have to play it again. But I guess they. You think of these triads too, like little horn sections. I did C to F, like C. And I'm finger picking a lot of them because I'm just doing these 3 strings and not strumming, so. Looking around, checking comments. Facebook
Mom wants
visitors.
to go to Bermuda.
Yeah, that was a nice place. Honeymoon was there. Was it there or something?
You forget where your honeymoon was?
No, that was Bermuda.
Grandma and Papa took us there in middle school.
Bermuda?
Yeah, we went on a cruise, remember?
I don't think it was Bermuda, was it?
It was Bermuda, yeah. St. Thomas. Went to other islands.
We didn't go to Bermuda then for that.
What?
St. Thomas, Puerto Rico.
We stopped in Bermuda.
No, we didn't. The Bermuda stop is not in the Caribbean. Bermuda is sort of up more off of the coast of Carolinas.
We were in Bermuda.
No, I don't think so.
I was in Bermuda.
That would be. Or Mom.
Oh my God. Mom, chime in. Tell Dad we went to Bermuda.
Bermuda is usually its only stop.
I bought the coat.
Yeah, all right, fine.
My dad is famous for
telling.
My mom and my sister and I went to a restaurant. The lady took
Spaghetti Warehouse, right?
The lady took our sodas, came back and gave the cup from the table next to us, gave them to our table. And we caught it because Amy didn't have a straw or something, and then there was a straw in there. Yeah. And he swears he was there, and he wasn't. And now he's saying he wasn't in Bermuda with us.
I wasn't.
Kurt has no idea where he has been. Mom said, Mom, we went to Bermuda on that cruise, right? He lives through us, yeah. So you've had a full life with your imaginary visits and trips with places.
So here's a perfect place to start to fool around with these. Take a C chord.
Betsy.
With the low G. If you have a low G, it sounds great, or high G, doesn't matter. Just let that low string, the string 4 drone on. I just did something that's not in the slides or nothing like that. But you can also displace the 3rd to get the add 9 chords. So I'm up here at C, root 3rd, 5th. I'm going to displace the 3rd for the 9th. can think of it as a sus too, or add, just displace the notes. Once you've established the chord progression, the tonality, you'll have a lot of freedom. So this is clearly C. That's funny.
Yeah, Jim
Yeah,
Brady
cruises. I don't know if I'd go on a cruise
said
nowadays.
he always has a lot going on in his mind.
So in these two workshops, there's a lot there. Basically, it does come down to this. Flat out memorize that major triads. All right, root, third, fifth. Get to the notes. If I'm C, C, E, G, F, F, A, C. This does, you do think of these. All right, because you can think ahead too. So whenever you move, you have to rethink. Like I got to think of the C up here now. F, C, G. Now I can. A lot of fooling around you can do. This is hours and hours of fun. You get the jam. Now those notes, those targets are really good notes for improvising off of. So it sort of sounds like the chords, right? Because you are playing chords, whether you play single notes or strum it. Now, if somebody else is playing chords, you're free to add a lot more notes in. Yeah, play a C, F, and G. Ready, Kelly, accompanist. Accompanist. Mist.
What did you say,
Mist.
C, F, and G?
Yeah, C, F, C, G.
C, F, C, G.
Yeah, ready, I'll count off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now ready, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, well, see now, if somebody's soloing, you can make them sound wrong by playing a different chord. You have extreme power. Bass players have extreme power to change the chord, and rhythm players can play the different chord. And
you said C, F, G, C.
C, F, C, G. Yes.
C, F, C, G.
F, C, G. Thinking triad here. F, shape there. I missed something there.
I did. I missed the C.
Yes, C.
I can't remember the two C's. They're throwing me off.
2, 3, 4.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, see, you make the soloist sound wrong.
That's like an odd.
Yeah, like in the jungle.
I start like dazing off, and then it's like, oh wait, that random C back again. Whoops. I kept wanting to just go C, F, G, C, F, G. C, F, G.
Yeah, do that there like I did there, like find them all. Because not only will your fingers remember the individual shape, muscle memory, they will know what the next one is. In fact, so much so that sometimes you'll forget something and you'll be playing and you go like, geez, what was that next chord? And you look down and your fingers know it. But then there'll be times when you're playing, you'll hear that next chord, they played the wrong chord, and you have to really quickly fix it, if possible. And then with the low G, incorporate that string in there. A little bit more work, but it's easy just to add one note. All right. Yeah, a lot of songs use these, you know. Betsy Manning posted, you know, that 1415, you know, Brown Eyed Girl, Lion Sleeps Tonight. In fact, there, I remember that progression. This is G, C, G, D. Thirds off of the G. And I do it here because it's less movement. Then D, 7. So D, open A. So it starts on the root, 5th, 3rd, up to the 5th. So how's it like that? That's the difference between low G and high G, is sometimes you need 2 arrangements. On low G, I could sometimes would play it here. Can't do it on high G though. High G, you have to move it there. Then the little lick is a D chord. That just goes right down the line. So that's D. It's in the key of G. 5 chord, 4 chord, 3rd, A minor, so D, C, B minor, A minor, G. Helps you transpose it to different keys, because it's also done in C. It's in the yellow book in C. Most guitar players will do it in G. So So the G one you have to do. So I went to G here, root, 5th. Thirds. 6th. Makeup. Get rid of this sheen.
Your glare on your head.
Yeah, use them scales. A lot of fun here. A lot of fun. All right. So to review. Yeah, memorize your major scales. Where's that at? Yeah, there you go. Here's where all that information comes from. Now you don't have to memorize the perfect and that kinds of stuff, but just memorize the numbers in the order. The triads. Memorize the augmented. Oh, hold on. Let me do the studio. There you go. See if that shows up here. Got a 10-second delay, right? Let it show up, right? There you go. Okay. Go studio mode, they show up. All 3 augmented. Memorize the shape. And learn the notes of the neck. Remember, they can be used for accompaniment, melodies, solos, improvisation. Fingering. Separate fingerings for the chords and the single notes. Sometimes they overlap. Add notes that are in the scale or the chord. Right? And the minors, memorize them. Diminished. Do them on the fly. Contemporary triad, sus and add. Sus 4 or sus. Sus 2 is you lower the 3rd to the 2nd, a whole step. Add, you can add any note into a chord. It's in the chord directions, you clearly have to write down what it is. You know? Sometimes you'll see chords where they will omit a note. They'll say C, omit, G. It's weird, but they might say stuff like that. All right. Then we covered 4-part triads, sevens, major seven, minor sevens. Those 3 dots means there's also minor 7 flat 5s. Basically is the diminished triad, lower the root 2 frets. Is that the minor? I have to remember which one I did. It's funny. 4-part triads. There's the sevens. And then there's an example of taking one of them and just keeping track of the root and lowering that. The 5th didn't really change any of those. Of the primary majors and the minors, the 5th does not change. So 7, major 7, and 6th all have a 5th in them. Now when you get to a chord like a minor 7 flat 5 or the augmented 7s and diminished 7s. Again, diminished 7s, just memorize that. Locate your root, and then if you need to do things like diminished 9 or the super rare chord is a diminished 7th, but with a major 7th. But I would just do this. I would take my diminished triad, lower the 5th, and then lower the root 1 fret. Now, though, a lot of these will end up being the same shape as familiar majors and minors, and at the point that you recognize that, go with it and reuse them. Like I do this, and sometimes you have to remember what the real chord is. Like I do the song Sway. And then it does the B section. D. And then if I don't think about it, I'm thinking this is B minor, but it's actually like a G major 9 chord. It's important when you have to tell the bass player what note to play. Play G, not B. All right. So there you go. That's contemporary triads. Be sure to. We need TJ.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yep.
Hit the notification bell.
Right. So we'll have a new workshop next week. What did we say?
Share with your friends. What?
Yeah. Pass the word. Share. You don't
What
really learn a lot of songs here, but you learn everything that goes into songs. So you'll be the star of the jam, being able to play all these fancy little chords. And you'll know, you can smile in the corner that, you have the knowledge now. But all the work is getting them to go. Sus. F. Sorry. For a real cool triad thing, I forget it too, but go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show theme. There's the time machine, the part, the warp,
yeah.
that one part in there. Yeah, it's triads. I forget it. I was like totally not the chords, but that's
similar to that.
The same sound. Yeah. All right, everybody have a good rest of the weekend.
Enjoy
Sunday
the rest of
here,
Sunday.
East Coast.
See you
on the other side
Wednesday night for our
we could do
Frets
one more.
TV.
Yeah, we'll come up with something new, but so the next workshop will not be this. Harmonized chord scales.
Will not be.
That's pretty deep. No, it could be.
Yeah, no. Let's go for something easy. If anybody wants a workshop topic covered, email us at funkyfrets@gmail.com. We'll take suggestions. And in the meantime, have a good week. We'll see you Wednesday night at 7. Bye.
Adios.